So what area are we talking about?
Minneapolis, the Minneapolis area.
And what's going on? What do you see, and what do you know?
Well, I was riding around with my buddy today, and we were driving. We were actually out getting 55-gallon drums, metal ones, because he's going to store some gas up on a lot up north. But his cousin called while we were driving around, and he said, "Hey, I got to tell you about this." And we're like, "Okay." So we were driving around, and he said that he got a government contract because he does remodeling for window installs. And he said they're building a whole new manufacturing plant for just this manufacturing facility outside Minneapolis to build bulletproof glass just for government buildings. And he's like, we're driving, and he goes, "Whoa." He goes, "You got to be kidding me." And I'm like, "Oh, I wonder what he's talking about." And I'm like, "Okay." So he gets off the phone, and he starts telling me this, and he said, "You're never going to believe what my cousin Randy told me." And I'm like, "Okay. What happened?" He said, "Well, he's doing all these government contracts, and he knows we're slow on work, and he wants to know if, maybe we can come help, because they're going to train him in, and then they want to hire a whole bunch more people so that they can convert all these government buildings with like 8-inch bulletproof glass on just a ton of government buildings."
Where? What locations?
Just all around Minneapolis, the Minneapolis government buildings.
And why would they be reinforcing it with how thick?
I think he said something like military-grade bulletproof glass.
Interesting. I wonder why they're doing that right now.
I have no idea. But he said the manufacturing company that he's got the contract through said it was because they were afraid of, I think, biological weapons or something, is what he said it was for. But he told my cousin, he's like, "I've been doing my research." He's like, "I don't think it's for that." He said, "I think they're doing that because they know there's going to be civil unrest, and people are going to be, doing things and rioting against the government and doing like what they've done in Iceland and Greece and whatever, and they're going to start breaking windows. So they're going to reinforce them because it's only a 2-year contract." He said it's starting this spring, and then they have to get all of the buildings done within 2 years.
And what type of buildings are they?
He just said government buildings. But then he said his main contract with this company is to do what's called these roundabouts. You'll be driving down a regular country road, and it'll come to like this big circle, like they have in Britain, where there's no stop signs, but you just kind of merge with traffic in this big circle, and then there's a big dome on top of dirt. And he said they're going to be actually putting a little United Nations checkpoint hut on top of all of those. He said starting this spring, they're going to start building them, and then that's what his part of the contract is, because he does remodeling for a bunch of huge manufacturers all over the Midwest for all of their warranty work for, like, I can't remember the names of the companies, like Anderson Window and Mervyn or whatever. So, and his part of the job is he's going to be installing the bulletproof glass in these little huts.
Why are they putting bulletproof huts onto streets?
I have no idea, but I've noticed they've been putting up a lot of these.
So you're talking checkpoints on American roadways.
Yeah, well, they're already all over. I just recently bought a car about a month and a half ago, and I had to drive an hour and a half out of Minneapolis, west of Minneapolis, to go buy this car. And on the way out there, I drove through 3 of these. I mean, we're talking 20 miles out of the city on country roads. There's 3 of these within, every 15 or 20 miles going down a 2-lane highway. And there's this big circle out in the middle of cornfields and soybean fields and cornfields. And I'm like, why are they putting all these European-style, roundabouts out here? I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. And they got a couple in, the southern part of the cities, and I'm just wondering, I'm like, I've seen a bunch of these all over now. I'm like, why are they putting these?
What are the checkpoints for?
I don't know. He said it's a government thing, and that's what his part of the contract is once they have the buildings built, He said they're starting this spring within about a month. He said 6 to 8 weeks from now is when he's supposed to start doing all the glass. And I have not seen any buildings anywhere. I know where 2 of them are in the metro area, and I've driven by them, and there's nothing on them. They're just a little mound. This circle where all the cars kind of go in a big circle and you merge in and out. So do you know what I'm talking about? Have you seen a roundabout?
Yeah, I know what those are. I just know this means something to someone more knowledgeable than myself. The fact that they're plating all government buildings with bulletproof glass, and they're putting checkpoints.
Part of the contract. His main part, they said, is you're going to start doing these little checkpoints, and that's what his main part of the contract is. He said in the future they're going to start doing government buildings, taking out all the old glass and putting in bulletproof glass. And he said that there's just an insane amount of money. He didn't say how much, but he said the government, the guy said he's working for that's building the plant, said they are spending the most insane amount of this bailout money on this plant. So that all they're going to do is make glass, bulletproof glass for the metro area. I'm like, this is freaking crazy.
Wow.
So I'm like, I got to get a hold of it. I got to tell George this, and he's got to, spread the news or something, because this is...
Yeah, someone knows what this means. I'm not quite sure what this means. It sounds disturbing, but...
It doesn't sound good, and that's why I was like, this is not good.
Wow. Is there anything else that you know, or would there be a way to verify this somehow?
We're supposed to find out, because I own my own construction company. I've been out of work for a long time. So he's like,
no, I'm wondering if independently...
Come do some work. And I said, yeah, you know what? I'm like, if they're going to be giving out this government money and, the economy's collapsing, I'll go take some government money. I'll go work for him. So he's supposed to know within this week when his actual start date is. And then he said, once they start, they're going to need a lot more people, and I'm supposed to train other people in on how to do these, because they have to be, there's a lot of specs on them, on how they're to be installed, so you got to go exactly by spec.
When a government builds something, they usually send it out to bid, so that's usually public knowledge, so this should be publicly recorded somewhere that people...
Yeah, I'm guessing it probably is. You're right.
And this is the federal government, or is it the state?
That I don't know.
What buildings?
Find out tomorrow.
What buildings were they? Were they all types of government buildings?
Yep, he said all types of government buildings. He said, but the main part that he is supposed to start on this spring is these, what he called them were little military huts. He said they're going to be owned by the United Nations, though. That's what he said when he was talking to my buddy. Because he got off the phone and said, "You're never going to believe what my cousin just told me." He said, they're going to be building these little military huts on all these roundabouts. So I'm like, okay, this is really weird.
And they're owned by the UN, so they can monitor people driving by?
I have no idea. He said something about biological weapons. But my thought is, if things get bad and there's ever martial law, they're not going to want people going in and out of cities, and they're located like on the suburbia area when you're getting into suburbia. When you're coming into the cities, they're all in the metro area.
I think I'm getting a picture of what this is about. This would be a way to, basically, put someone there with weaponry, and they're able to defend a position. I mean, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, and they're bulletproof glass. I know that, because he said that's my main part of the job when I start my contract, is to put in the bulletproof glass on these little huts, these little UN huts. And I thought, this is nuts.
So paid for by the federal government, but owned by the UN. Interesting.
Yeah, who knows? I want to talk to him tomorrow and find out, which company's doing this. I don't know which company it is, but he said the manufacturing company is going to be built in a little town called Farmington, Minnesota. And it's south metro of Minneapolis.
Keep me in the loop. I don't want you to get in trouble or anything, so, we'll try to keep it on the down low, but definitely keep me in the loop if you can.
Yeah, you bet. If I find out anything more tomorrow or the next day on, when they're starting and what the name of the company is, definitely. I'll shoot you an email.